Good evening, race fans, and welcome back to Season 8 of the Attrition Sim Race Campus Oval Series. Tonight is the penultimate round of the season here at the Five Flag Speedway down in Pensacola, Florida. You heard that right, race fans? Only one more race after this one before we draw a conclusion to this season. And I'll tell you what, the championship standings still incredibly tight. We got three drivers, the top three, all within roughly 20 points of each other. And then just behind them, back in P number 4, another driver only give it about 30 points behind them. So still absolutely anyone's game between our top 4 drivers coming in tonight, that being Brian Sabelski, Tyler McRae, Garrett Streets, and Travis Sukup, all of which who are in attendance for the event here tonight. So this one should be a very action-packed one around this half-mile or 0.8 kilometer long speedway. Of course, before we get into the racing action though, I know we are nearly at the end of the season, but if you do want to hop into Attrition Sim Race Campus and come join us for these races, just go ahead and head to @ASRC Racing on Twitter, or go to www.asrcracing.com, or alternatively, you can look them up on the iRacing League directory. But anyone's welcome to join at any point in the season. The only requirement is that you be a clean and respectful driver. So, only 1 week left in the season after this, then we will be taking an off week for week 13. We may or may not host a just for fun race, but then season number 9 of the Oval Series will be kicking off just a week after that. So definitely looking forward to seeing what the 2023 racing season is going to show for us. But before we can talk about that, we have just 2 more races to get in the books for this season. That said, it's looking like we are just about done with qualifying for tonight, so let's go take a look down trackside at our starting lineup for tonight, presented by Sim Racer Hub and the Majors Garage. Starting out on the pole here tonight, going to be that number 45 of Travis Sukup. Is outside in the number 93, Jason Gardner, getting a very solid start here tonight in that me entry. Back in P number 3, our current points leader coming in this race, it's going to be the number 85 of Brian Sabelski. Back in 4th position, going to be another Droppin' Bombs driver in that number 10. That's going to be Steven Rex, making his first start here in the Oval Series since season number 5, race fans. Back in the 5th position, going to be Garrett Streets in that 15 machine, one of the drivers that is very heavily contesting the championship, so going to be a driver that's going to be really looking to try and get some points here. Back in the 6th position, one of the veterans here at Attrition Sim Race Campus in that number 25 JL Audio entry, that's going to be Rob Haynes, making his first start of the season. Definitely great to see him back out here. He's going to roll off in P number 6. Back in 7th, going to be the 14 of Nico Morelli for Morelli Motorsports. We've seen him up in the booth here many times after these races, but not been able to take home a checkered flag yet, so we'll have to see if Morelli is going to be able to pull it off here tonight. Back in P number 8 with the most wins so far this season of any driver, going to be the 99 of Tyler McRae, also for Droppin' Bombs Racing. Back in the 9th position, our only international driver this season, going to be the 38 of Brandon Feeney in the Beefy Motorsports Liqua Molly entry. Back in the 10th position, going to be the 51 of Eric Gahn for Dirtbag Racing. Back in 11th, Jason Mong in the 70. And finally, rounding out the field tonight, looks like it's going to be the 05 of Alex Light for Limitless Esports. That said, it does not look like Alex Light was able to make the grid here tonight, so Jason Mong will be the one rolling out in the final position for this evening. But 101 laps up for grabs. Let's see what these drivers have to offer in the second to last race of the season. Pace car is off. And green flag is up in the air. Everyone is rolling. Side by side, heading down into turn number 1. Naturally inside line, getting a little bit of a better run than the outside. That is something that we tend to see fairly often here at the short tracks. That there is a couple of outliers to that, of course, and saw that there. Jason Gardner, even if he didn't necessarily get the run on the start, he was all the way up to the wall there, and he's doing it yet again, just all the way up to the wall, trying to get that high line to work for him, but it's not looking like it's working very well for that number 93 machine, falling back a position to Sabelski in that number 85. Sabelski, a 3-time champion here in the ASRC Oval Series, looking to try and make that his 4th. It looks like we might have had trouble back in the back. The number 38 of Brandon Feeney is around. We're not going to have a caution, though. He's got that late model pointed back in the right direction. Everything all hanky-dory for him. The rest of the field, though, all under a blanket for the most part. The top 7 all within 2 seconds of the race leader. Everyone's starting to single file out just a little bit and try and start to play nice with each other. Of course, and I say that, and we have a new race leader, Brian Sabelski, going to be taking it out from the 45 of Travis Sukup. Sukup having a whole lot of handling issues under the hood of that number 45 machine. You saw him get sideways not once, but twice in the same corner. Now he's pretty steadily falling back. At 14, Nico Morelli now looking to try and get around him, and the 99 of McRae also looking to try and get around his teammate of Travis Sukup. Looks like he's going to be able to get to do it. Sukup already down 5 positions, and if that 15 of Streets is going to make the pass, which he is, make that 6 positions for Sukup. Just one little slip up cost him almost the entire field worth of positions. And Rob Haynes also looking to try and peek down there and see if he can't make a pass as well, but Streets is going to back out of it and say, you know what, no, there's still 90 laps in this race. Don't necessarily need to be making passes only 9 laps in. After all, fuel is going to be coming into play here tonight. Fuel is something that drivers definitely are going to have to worry about, and there is an extra set of tires down in pit lane for them too, so we will have to see if these drivers are going to try and push it as hard as they can and take tires later on in the race when they take their fuel, or if they're going to try and be a little more conservative and make those iRacing branded tires last for them, maybe get some late race positions. Nico Morelli going to get passed by the 99 of McRae as well. McRae being a bit of a hard charger here tonight. And it looks like Brandon Feeney just had to take the tow down to pit lane. Feeney might be having a little bit of trouble. Let's see if we can't take a quick look back and see what happened to Feeney on actually both these incidents. This first one, we're taking a look back early on at the beginning of the race. This was back on lap number 3. Just a little bit too loose for the 38 driver out of Canada. And then taking a quick look at the second incident as well. Let's see if we can't see what happened to Feeney that caused him to head down to pit lane. It looks like he did have to take the tow from whatever happened. Just locking it up and all ending up in the tire and immediately hitting the tow button to not bring out the caution. That's going to be Brandon Feeney down on pit lane here for potentially a pretty decent chunk of time, depending on how much damage is under that hood. Tyler McRae in that 99. This is back in the 3rd position, trying to see if he can't put the bumper to Gardner and get up into the podium. McRae does have the most wins of any driver this season, but he's currently sitting back in 2nd place in the championship standings. While he does have the most wins of any driver, he was unfortunately unable to attend the first couple of races this season, so he has less points under his belt just by virtue of Ryan Sabelski being here for the full season. Tyler McRae going to be able to make the pass. That's going to put him up in the 3rd position. And I'll tell you what, right up in front of him is going to be his teammate of Rex, who just got really loose off that corner. He's going to take no time in passing his teammate of Steven Rex there. And now he has his sights set on the race leader of Sabelski. But that's not to count out the rest of these drivers. There are cars all under a blanket here. This is 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. Jason Gardner getting a little loose into turn 3 and having to drift up, and that's going to allow the 45 of Sukup to get past him. But he's going to be going right back at it, see if he can't make that position back in that number 93 entry. These 4 cars currently the 4 closest on the speedway, all 4 of them within about a second of each other. Actually a little bit less than that. Gardner trying to see if he can't take the higher line through these corners to try and get a little bit of a run down the straights and catch back up to Sukup. But it doesn't look like he's having too much success with it. But you do have to think about the long-term usage of these tires. Sometimes just sacrificing speed in the early parts of the race to have a little bit more under your hood later at the end is the way to go. We will have to keep an eye on these drivers and see just what they decide to try and pull off here tonight. Last season, when we came here to the Five Flags Speedway, Chase Johnson was the winner, who was not present for this race, but Jason Gardner finished in 2nd, so we will have to see. Will Jason Gardner have what it takes to try and match or beat his best finish here since ASRC began using the late models back in season number 7? Still got a bit of work ahead of him to try and cut his way through here. That 45 and that 99 both not going to be very forgiving targets. Make that the 45 and it's actually the 10 of Steven Rex, but it's looking like on the side of that car it is the 88. So 88 and the 10 are the same person, just the 10 on the timing and scoring. Sometimes we have little bits of mishaps with these cars' transponders. Nothing too much to worry about. We still have a good idea of what everyone is doing, and that's what counts. A little bit further back in the field, there's a bit of a battle brewing back for the 9th position. This has been between Jason Mong and Garrett Streets. Streets going to go up high and let Mong overtake him. Might have overdriven the corner entry a little bit going into 3, and that might have been what pushed him up wide there. And down the backstretch and into turn number 3. Streets really trying to get a little bit of extra oomph under the hood of that number 15. Streets only has 1 win under his belt here this season, and that was back at, I want to say, someone had a little bit of a scrape against the wall there. Streets picked up his 1 and only win this season back at the North Wilkesboro Speedway, and that was enough to propel him up to the 3rd position in the championship standings. Looking to try and see if he can't scrape any sorts of points out of this final, or well, make that 2nd to final race here tonight, just to try and contend for the championship. Currently, coming into tonight's race, Brian Sabelski is in the lead with the point standings here with 199 points. Then back in 2nd place in the standings, Tyler McRae with 177. So still a 22 point difference between these two drivers. For reference, the most points you can get in a race is roughly 30, so about 30. So decent bit of a gap between Sabelski and McRae, but definitely one that is not insurmountable. And then between McRae and Streets is only 2 points. So Streets really having the pressure put on him to try and at least maintain his position here on the championship podium, if not be able to get around Tyler McRae. He's got a workout cut out for him, though, because currently he is back in the 9th position. Got a whole lot of race left ahead of him, though, so we will have to see just what Streets manages to pull off. A bit further up in the field, a bit of a battle in the mid-pack. This is between Nico Morelli and Rob Haynes. Rob in that number 25 JL Audio car. It looks like he is going to be able to overtake Morelli down on the bottom. Morelli actually getting a bit of a run off the corner, but whether or not he is able to carry that speed through, and it looks like he actually is. Morelli's going to be scored as the leader for that lap. Side by side still through turns 1 and 2. Morelli might just be making the outer line at this track actually work for him, but still not enough to be able to shut the door. Haynes is still right there and getting a little bit of a better entry into the corner. He's just not getting the run off he needs to make the overtake on that number 14 machine. Rob, of course, a long-time driver here with ASRC, a driver that has competed here in the Oval Series as well as represented ASRC in a couple of other leagues. Definitely great to see him back out here on the track. It has been just a little while since we have been able to see him compete, but always great to have returning drivers out on the field. And even if we are on our second to last race of the season, always good to come out, have a little bit of fun, and get some extra seat time under the belt for Season 9 once it rolls around. Haynes still really trying to just get anything to work for him on that bottom side, but Morelli's really doing a great job of managing to put pressure on him from the outside, which is not something that we normally see here in the Oval Series. Generally speaking, on some of these short tracks, with a couple of exceptions like the Irwindale Speedway, you want to be hugging the apron as much as possible, pretty much all the way around the speedway, but here it looks like that may not be the case, because Morelli in that 14 machine doing an expert job of holding Haynes off. Battle between these two cars is going to allow Jason Mong to get himself in on the mix, though, in that number 70 machine. Mong also another driver with a win under his belt this season. He's currently back in the 8th position in the championship standings right now with 105 points, and just ahead of him is Jason Gardner with 117. So Mong and Gardner, the two Jasons, battling out for the championship points. We'll have to see what these drivers are going to be able to offer for each other. Now Mong is going to be trying to make the overtake on Haynes. Haynes trying to run the line that Morelli was running just a couple of laps ago when Rob tried to make the same move happen, but it's not going to work for him, and Mong is going to successfully make the pass. Speaking of drivers, though, that 15 is going to be pulling it down onto pit lane for the first pit stop of the evening for that number 15 car. We will just have to see, will pitting this early get him enough fuel to make it to the end of the race? Because being the first driver on pit lane, it could potentially work out for him. We will just have to see. Going back to the driver that we were talking about just a little bit ago, this is the number 93 of Jason Gardner, currently in the 4th position. Down 2 spots from where he qualified, but still having a pretty solid run, and a pretty solid run that would keep Mong behind him if the race were to end how it is right now. But another very interesting battle in the championship points is actually between Gardner and Morelli. Both drivers are actually tied coming into this race with 117 points for 6th and 7th place respectively. If Gardner were to be able to finish where he is now, he would actually be able to launch himself up into the top 5 of the championship standings, because just above Morelli is Eric Gahn with 120 points, who is back in the 9th position right now. So while they may not be for the championship, there are very important points battles happening all throughout the field here tonight on all levels of our championship standings. A whole lot of stories to talk about and a whole lot of cars to keep our eyes on. That said, that 10/88 of Steven Rex gonna be able to make the pass on Gardner. Seems like these other drivers are not having as much success using the high line as Nico Morelli was. Just about every overtake we've seen so far has been on the bottom of the track, with that one exception for Morelli, so Morelli might just have something up under his hood that the rest of these drivers don't. Here at the SRC Oval Series, it is open setup, so drivers are allowed to tune and adjust the cars as they see fit. And speaking of that, Jason Gardner going to be our second driver down on pit lane here tonight. Garrett Street's back out on the track, but being scored as 2 laps down, which just goes to show how long these pit stops can be and how, might I say, detrimental if you go onto pit lane during a green flag pit stop and something goes very, very wrong. Speaking of things potentially going wrong there, Brian Sabelski, current race leader, heading into a bit of lapped traffic. That's Streets and Gone that he is coming up on there. Will we see that lapped traffic allow McRae to catch up to the race leader? McRae in that number 99 machine for Dropping Bombs Racing, been putting on some very impressive runs here tonight in that number 99. And I actually had the pleasure of racing against Tyler McRae just a couple of days ago, back on Wednesday. The other league that I broadcast for did an off-week race that I competed in, and I got to compete alongside Tyler McRae, and sure enough, he completely kicked my butt because McRae is an exponentially better driver than I am, hence why he is down on the track and I am up here in the booth. But it was really great getting to chat with him and actually see the action he's doing from the perspective of being inside one of these late model stock cars. Sure enough though, that lap traffic, absolutely what McRae wanted, to catch up to Sabelski, and now only less than 0.2 of a second now between these two drivers. McRae looking to try and start setting up a pass. McRae, the hardest charger of the race here tonight, and McRae's actually going to get up into the wall. Damage on the right front of that late model stock car. That could prove to be very costly. If he has any sort of aerodynamic damage on that car, that might have just thrown away his chances of getting the pass on Sabelski and getting his 5th race win of the season. He's going to pull it down to pit lane, go ahead and take his fuel stop, and see how that plays out for him later on in the evening. Another battle breaking out on the speedway this year between Mong and Morelli. Jason Gardner, a battle part of this pack as well, but Gardner is not battling for position. He is currently a lap down from his pit stop, but he does have the faster car, and he's going to make the pass on Mong very handily in that number 93, and it looks like he's going to make the pass on Morelli as well. Just goes to show how much tires can make a difference in these late models. Very handily making both of those passes in that number 93 machine, despite being a lap down. But he was also battling up in the top 4 for most of this race, so might have a little bit of tuning under that hood that's also playing a bit advantageous to that number 93 car. That said, we see many drivers going a lap down as our pit cycles go through. If a caution were to come out, this could spell a little bit of disaster for everyone below the 6th position. But if we manage to stay green, which is entirely possible since we only have 33 laps remaining in this race, then everyone will be put back on the lead lap once Mong, Morelli, Rex, and Sukup all come in for their pit stops. Those 4, the drivers that have not come in at all yet. Eric Gahn also has not come in that number 51 machine. He is currently being scored a lap down simply because he was passed by the leaders, not because he has done a pit stop yet. But everyone else that's currently a lap down is a lap down due to green flag pit stops. And you see Haynes and Streets actually 2 laps down. Streets had a very slow pit stop, so it's possible that Streets may have gotten a penalty because he spent almost 15 seconds longer than everyone else down on pit lane. Speaking of pit lane though, Jason Mon going to be the next driver to head down into the pit lane and get some extra fuel in that late model stock car. And it looks like he will be taking at least 2 tires as well. That'll leave Sukup, Rex, and Morelli, last cars that need to pit to get scored back on the lead lap. And it looks like it's only going to be 2 tires for Jason Mong. Currently everyone a bit spread out on the speedway, but that's going to put the 45 of Travis Sukup as our current race leader. Going to be picking up a bonus point for having at least 1 lap lead under his belt in that 45 machine. Looking to see if perhaps he is trying to just stretch his fuel all the way out in that late model. Currently, him, Rex, and Morelli, the 3 drivers still on the lead lap that have not come in for fuel at all this race. Currently 72 laps in the books. I will say there have been times when drivers have just done completely unorthodox fuel strategies, and even one time that a driver managed to make it to the end of the race without pitting, whereas everyone else had to simply by how well he saved his fuel. Judging by how these drivers have been pushing their cars though, I really don't think that anyone in these remaining 3 are going to be able to actually make it to the end on fuel. That said, once we come back around the speedway this time by, going to be 25 laps to go. Well, 25 laps to go after we come around one more time. That one final lap does actually make a difference sometimes in these races. That said, on top of that, we also do have the potential for overtime if need be, but so far, no cautions here this evening, so it's entirely possible that we will see this race through green all of the way. There, of course, was that one incident at the very start with the 38 of Brandon Feeney, but he did manage to pull that car down onto pit lane before the yellow flag was thrown. So for all intents and purposes, it has been pretty much an incident-free race. Right now, everyone pretty fairly sped out on this track. The closest 2 cars currently are together is over a second right now, and that's between McRae and Sabelski. But another driver going to be coming down onto pit lane. That's going to be the 10 of Steven Rex coming in for his fuel stop, and looks like he has a little bit of right rear damage. We will have to see if he decides to get that patched up or if he's just going to take his fuel and get back out there. Gonna be at least 2 tires for the 10 of Steven Rex. That leaves just Morelli and Sukup with 22 laps to go to come down and make their fuel stops. And who knows, I could be mistaken. Eric Gahn has not come in for his stop either. Eric, you can see, is going noticeably slower than that 99 of McRae or any of these other cars. There's an entire chance here that Gahn has actually saved his fuel enough to get to the end. Gahn has not been pushing this race whatsoever. He might just be trying to make that strategy work in that 51 machine. Whether or not he manages to pull it off remains to be seen, and McRae has officially passed him for position despite the pit cycle, so not going to be scored as the race leader once Sukup and Morelli come down. And sure enough, Sukup's going to be down on pit lane. That leaves just Morelli and Gahn to do their pit stops, and of course you see just like that, drivers managing to unlap themselves now that the race leader has come to take his stop. 45 going to pull it down into pit lane. Will he be taking tires? Looks like the resounding answer is yes. 2 tires on the 45 machine, and that leaves now just Nico Morelli, the last driver to need to come in and do his fuel stop, unless Eric Gahn was unsuccessful with his saving strategy. 18 laps to go though, and for these drivers that have not taken fuel, those 18 laps are going to feel like an eternity. Sure enough though, Morelli picked up a bonus point for leading a lap, and now he is down on pit lane, and that's going to be making Tyler McRae our new race leader in that number 99 machine. We will have to see, does Sabelski have what it takes to catch back up to him in these next 17 laps? A little bit further behind, a battle breaking out back for the 8th position. This is between Jason Mong and Rob Haynes. Haynes in that number 25 machine, down a position from where he qualified, but still having a fairly solid run, especially for his first time racing here with ASRC in a little over a season. Always great to see the number 25 JL audio entry out here on the track. 15 laps to go though, currently the closest battle on the speedway. Mong really trying to see if he can't find a way around Haynes. After all, Mong is in the middle of a little bit of a points battle. Not a points battle for the championship, but a points battle nonetheless, and every position counts to all of these drivers. It's a little late in the season to be making mistakes anymore. Speaking of making mistakes though, Garrett Street's going to slap the outside wall in that 15 machine just a little bit. He's keeping it pointed in the right direction though, so it looks like everything is good for him. Going way up the speedway though, still 2 laps down, so he's just going to be letting the lead lap cars by. No reason to be holding them up in that number 15 machine. Not the run that Streets was probably hoping for tonight, currently being scored in that 3rd position in the championship standings. But there are drop weeks, so still possible to have a bad run and have it get taken off the record, so to speak. We will have to see how the drop weeks play out after we head into next week when we crown our Season 8 champion. But it's definitely not looking very good for Streets right now to maintain where he is, or at least vie for the championship in that number 15 machine. Haynes really getting pressure from behind from Mong now. Mong really trying every single line he can to try and get around that 25. He's tried the high side, he's tried the low side, he's tried crossing him over. Not much seems to be working for that number 70 machine, but he is really keeping Haynes on his toes here. Really putting the hammer down, putting a whole lot of pressure on that number 25 machine, and really making him aware that, hey, I am right behind you. Currently, these two drivers by far the closest battle on the speedway. And this is the battle back for the 6th position between these two cars. Mong going a little bit low out of the corner there, almost getting that 70 down onto the apron, managing to back it off just a bit, but even then, very close between these two drivers. Currently less than a 1/10 of a second between the two of them. It looks like Mong gonna try and make the outside line work. A little bit of a mixed result there, but now they're nearly side by side going into 3. Mong falling back a bit as we get the big high 5 up in the air. 5 laps to go, and Mong's going way up high that time into the corner. Not going to have much luck with that though. A little bit further up the track, another battle also going on as Mong manages to actually make the pass. Gonna be scored in front of Haynes that time by, but it's a question of if he can hold on to it. Gonna be 4 laps to go now for the race leader. Make it 3 to go now that he's crossed the line. A 1.4 second lead between McRae and Sabelski. And Mon gonna scrape the wall. That's gonna kill his momentum just a little bit and allow Haynes to get the pass done. Mong's gonna take it down low, try and go for the crossover. No such luck. A little bit further up, another battle happening, this time between teammates. This is Sukup and Rex duking it out side by side for fourth. Coming across the line, Sukup is going to be scored as the leader of this battle. Gonna be the white flag up in the air though. And as he comes around the speedway, heading down the backstretch, Tyler McRae a 1.47 second lead between himself and Sabelski. Tyler McRae going to be picking up his 5th win of the season here tonight, race fans. That's going to be win number 5 for McRae. 11 races now completed. 5 of them have gone to the driver of that number 99 dropping bombs entry. But that said, race fans, don't go anywhere because we will be right back here in just a minute to talk to your top 3 finishers with a little bit of an interview. So see you in just a second, race fans. Don't go anywhere. Alrighty, race fans, welcome back. And speaking of welcome people back, welcome back, Mr. Tyler McRae, picking up your 5th win of the season. How are you feeling now that you've got another one under your belt heading into the championship event next week?
Um, Pretty good, man. I'll tell you what, I struggled out here. I had a good setup, but when I showed up, it just didn't work for me. And I was panicking. I was panicking trying to get something going. And then I qualified even worse than I was practicing at the end. So I didn't know what in the world. So I made 2 adjustments and just took it easy at first. And it started coming around. Then I see what else I wanted. And I made that adjustment when I put the 2 tires on. And that thing took off from there.
Yeah, it's crazy how much just a change in the time of day can sometimes affect the driving conditions of the track, but regardless of your little bit of panic at the start of this race, you are the hardest charger of the evening with 7 spots picked up under your belt. So I'd say one way or another, you got things to work out in your favor.
Yeah, I mean, we were, talking to Mike and Steve in here. We're in the same Discord together. We were talking about times and who's doing what and what should we do. And I don't know what happened with Brian that one lap, but I went high, moved high so I wouldn't touch him, and I touched the wall. And I knew I had to pit that next lap because I got myself damaged. I didn't want to fall back after running him down. But it's pretty fun. These guys are all competitors, and I really appreciate all the room they give and the hard racing they do. So it's a pretty fun time racing with them.
Yeah, well, it's always great having you out here, and I'm excited to see just what you might have in store at South Boston next week. Is that a track you got any particular thoughts on heading into your potential vie for the championship?
Um, Probably a lot of us are going to be good there. I mean, because it's a I don't want to say easy track, but it's a track that I think a lot of people on the sim have laps at. But one advantage, I've actually ran a couple seasons of late models there. It's only about an hour and 45 minutes from me, so I do like the track a lot. So that's if that's an advantage, I guess that's one.
Well, I would imagine a bit of real world experience is definitely always a good thing to have under your belt. But that said, before we send you off to start getting ready for next week, is there anyone you'd like to thank on the side of that number 99 machine?
Yeah, as always, I want to thank the league, the ASRC league. It's a fun league. I mean, there's no bickering, there's no fighting. Guys just want to come out and have a good time, run hard. Really, I mean, everybody wants to do good and win, but no matter where you finish, it's a fun time. Um, the competitors in the league, they're a lot of fun. You're broadcasting. I do enjoy watching it later. Dropping bombs racing. We have so much fun together as friends. And like I said, Mike, really, this is one of Mike's setups. I kind of Frankensteined a little bit, and Steve just with the comic relief in the race the whole time. We just have a good time, and also want to thank simspeedshop.com. They do push button steering wheels, stuff like that. Pretty cool little shop in Ohio.
Good deal. Well, thank you for coming out, Tyler, and I look forward to seeing you out here on the track next week.
All right, appreciate you. Have a good night.
You too. Coming back in P number 2, it looked like he had the race a little bit in the bag in the early goings of this one. How are you feeling now that you finally brought the car home here tonight, Brian?
I had a number I was running to that I couldn't drop below for the race, and I hit my number. So points wise, I'm in a very comfortable position for next week. I think unofficially I did the math, and I think with that second and the clean race, I think that locks it up because I think my last drop week would be a bigger gap than if Tyler swept all the points next week. I think it's more than 13. I think the gap would be more than 13. So, uh, yeah, little bit sad there in the middle. Some of the lap traffic was kind of a little bit of a hassle. But that happens. I mean, it's going to happen in short track race, and people are going to pit different times, or they they might like accidentally overshoot a corner or trying to save it, and that happens. Nobody hit me. I didn't hit anyone else. I'm happy with that. And yeah, like I said, I think I led the most laps, and I think I led one or more laps and finished the race clean. And I'm a guy who picks up wins and championships in the margin. Sometimes it feels like, and it's just keep chipping away at it here and there, and eventually, you get to it. This is I've now run last 24 hours. I've run 400 laps at this track. So between two different races.
Yeah, I'd imagine that's a whole lot of experience, but sometimes that's what it takes to bring it home in the podium. And well, you said it yourself, you do have a pretty comfortable points lead going into next week. How are you feeling with South Boston being the track that could potentially make you a four-time champion here?
Pretty good. I know I have at worst, I've got that cushion, 27-point drop week that I can lean on a little bit. So getting more than that this week is certainly helpful because that kind of locks that in, and then you can kind of focus on okay, so anything otherwise that I do better is going to be like, oh, drop something. But yeah, anything better than that is just kind of padding and a little bit of icing on the cake, and hopefully next week will be smooth sailing. I'm actually what I'm more hoping to do is to try and have one more clean race that can end the season with just one incident or the whole season.
That sounds like a good goal to set out. That would be quite the feat, especially for short track racing, even if this is a pretty clean league. One incident over the course of 12 weeks is no laughing matter.
No, and I mean, I picked it up last week at New Smyrna. Apparently, there's a tiny patch of grass, and I was trying to save the car from a spin, and I very, very lightly nicked it, and it gave me a 1X. I was just like, that's frustrating.
Yeah, sometimes that's just how it plays out, unfortunately. But before we send you off to start getting ready for South Boston next week, either anyone you want to thank on the side of that 85 machine?
Yeah, just want to thank the folks at the Monconi Setup Shop for the help for this week for Five Flags, and of course you guys for broadcasting, and Jason and Johnny for putting the league together. Everyone hanging out on my Twitch channel. Hi everyone. Good to see y'all here again tonight. I always appreciate the good times, and yeah, between this and other stuff, I have a lot of stuff to to do this week. I have some week 12 stuff I need to close out. See if I can grab a trio of top 50 official series finishes. So here's hoping for that.
Sounds like a good plan. I won't keep you any longer then, and good luck with your goals for the rest of the week.
Thank you very much.
And finally, rounding out the podium here tonight, Jason, you finished on the podium last season at this track, and here you are on the podium again. How are you feeling now that you've got another race here at the Five Flag Speedway under your belt?
I'm currently feeling wore out right now. That was one intense race, at least for me.
Yeah, you put on quite a show, and being up in the podium pretty much the entire race, that can take a whole lot of work and a whole lot of driving. So definitely great to see you up here again. If anything could have gone differently, do you think you would have had anything to give Brian or McRae?
Maybe if we had a green-white checkered, maybe I would have had something for him. But no, unfortunately, both those cars were in their own zip code.
Yeah, that's fair. All of y'all put on quite a good show tonight, and frankly, I'm looking forward to seeing what all y'all can do next week. What do you feel about South Boston? Is that a track you got any particular concerns about?
Well, a lot of us back when we first started doing ovals, that's actually one of the I think it's a free track, so it's one of the tracks that you actually get cut your teeth on very early in your oval series career. So I'm really not too well, I'm not going to say I'm not too worried about it because it's a very, very narrow track. And a lot can happen. Somebody can get sideways in the straightaway and pretty much block up 2/3 of the entire front stretch.
Well, at least you got one thing going for you heading into next week. And to be fair, you had it going for you last season too. But I won't be on the track to wreck you as my teammate again. So, I mean, you got that going for you. I can't hurt you from up here in the booth. Which I know I have done many times in the ASRC Oval Series in the past.
That is true, but there's also the commentary curse.
Yeah, that's true. I'll try my best not to not to look at you and make your tires explode. But before we send you off and start letting you get ready for next week, is there anyone you'd like to thank on the side of that number 93 machine?
Oh yes, I like to thank Johnny Bell, ASRC, and I also like to thank everybody who came in today's race and participated. And I also want to thank you. You're been broadcasting this. I think this is your second season broadcasting.
Yep, will be the end of the second season next week. So 6 months of me doing this. That's a little crazy to think about.
Yeah, so I like big thank you for that because I always like to go back and watch these races from time to time.
Well, it's certainly a blast doing. I always love seeing y'all come out and compete. And frankly, it might be a little bit better that I'm up here talking and not down there on the track several laps down and wrecking my teammate leader, uh, Ed Thompson. So yeah,
Although we do miss you on the track, even though you wreck me sometimes.
sometimes. But thank you for coming out, Jason. Thank you for putting this series on, and I look forward to seeing y'all next week at South Boston.
I'm looking forward to it as well.
Heard it here first, race fans. That's going to be your top three drivers: Tyler McRae, Brian Spelski, Jason Gardner. Your top three finishers here at the Five Flag Speedway. But before we send it off here for the evening, let's take a quick look at our race results here tonight. Taking the win, going to be his fifth win of the season. That's going to be the number 99 of Tyler McRae. Back in P number 2, going to be the 85 of Brian Sabelski, with Jason Gardner, that number 93, being in third and rounding out the podium here tonight. Back in fourth place for Droppin' Bombs Racing, going to be the 45 of Travis Sukup, with his teammate Steven Rex in the 10 just behind him. Back in sixth position, going to be the 70 of Jason Mong. And back in seventh place, going to be the 25 of Rob Haynes, making his return to the series after a little bit of a hiatus. Eighth place, going to go back to the 51 of Eric Gahn, with ninth place going to the 15 of Garrett Streets. Back in the 10th position, going to be that number 14 machine of Nico Morelli, with Brandon Feeney in the 38 rounded out our field tonight, as Alex Light was unable to make the grid here this evening. So been a quite fun one. Five Flag Speedway always been a track that produces a whole lot of great racing, and of course, no surprise with that, considering that later this week this track will be hosting the Snowball Derby in real life, and that is debatably one of the most prestigious super late model events on the East Coast, if not the entire United States. So this track has a whole lot of history to it, and it's always great to head out here on the iRacing.com platform. But that's all we have for y'all here tonight at the Five Flag Speedway down in Pensacola, Florida. Next week, we take it up to South Boston Speedway to crown ourselves a champion. Won't that be quite the race? So, until then, I will see you all same day, same time, Monday at 10 p.m. Eastern for a crowning event to crown our Season 8 champion of the ASRC Oval Series down in South Boston, Virginia. But for now, thank you all for coming out, and I will see y'all next week. Have a good evening, race fans.